Hello, and welcome to another episode of Teaching with Inquiry Live. Tonight, we've got two things going on. One, I want to talk to you about unit planning, and I'm going to share with you how I plan my units out so that they are ready for inquiry, and I've got some activities to go in my back pocket. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to unit plan, especially for inquiry, and stay tuned because I have a huge Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday special announcement specifically for this week that you are definitely not going to want to miss. If you are new to Teaching with Inquiry Live, welcome. This is my weekly show. My name is Patty. I am a 4-5 split grade teacher here in Ontario, Canada, and I come live every single week talking to teachers about using inquiry-based teaching strategies in their classrooms, as well as talking about split grade teaching and just general teaching and teacher life ideas here on the show. So thank you so much for joining us. If you are here, throw up a thumbs up or a wave in the comments. I'd love to shout out and say hello to you and see that you are all here. So give me a little wave, say, hey, how's it going? Tell me how your week, last week before school ends for the Christmas holidays. Let me know how that's going for you. You just finished up a first day of your final week. So it's a little hectic, if I'm completely honest. That's what life is like in my classroom this week. So let's talk unit planning. So how many of you actually still unit plan or remember unit planning, or were actually taught how to plan a unit way back when you went to Teachers College, or perhaps not so long ago, if you are newer to the profession? How many of you are actually still planning out units and planning what you're doing before you teach it? Or are you more of a fly by the seat of your pants type person where you kind of just make it up as you go along? Or perhaps that's what's actually happening in your classroom, but you'd love to be well planned and actually have units that you can have in your back pocket that are ready to go so that you can be responsive and always have something for your students to do to push the learning forward, making sure that you're tied to curriculum. So I'm just wondering, what kind of planner are you? For me, myself, I am somebody that definitely wants to have a unit planned, and I want to make sure that my units are planned to the point where I have a lesson for almost every single expectation. Not necessarily in a way that I am going to be the person who is going to be deciding that I'm delivering every single lesson, but I definitely want to have that plan ready to go and put in place so that I have something in my back pocket to rely on. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I go straight into the curriculum standard documents and I look at what is it that I'm required to teach students. And I list those out, and I often will rewrite those in people-friendly language because often they're written in very much teacher speak and it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it. So the first thing I do is take those curriculum expectations and I kind of drill them down and list them in plain language. And probably try to summarize those because some of them can be pretty hefty. So I try to summarize those into a one sentence kind of expectation that really allows me to understand the essence of what is trying to be taught. So that's my first step when I'm unit planning, is really digging into the curriculum and listing out the expectations that students are expected to learn. Now, the next step that I do is I take that list and I order it. So I start putting numbers in the margin and I order them in a way that what do students need to understand first, next, then what is the order in which I feel students are going to best probably approach that. And I do rely on some of the experience I have as a classroom teacher to figure out what I've done in the past. I'll look at resources and maybe look at how they have other resources and look at how they have laid out their structure, or ask colleagues. All of those are a good way to kind of figure out which expectations logically need to be learned first before they can do some of the deeper things. If you're thinking about inquiry, some of the basic knowledge and understanding expectations definitely need to be done first. You need to ensure that students have an appropriate background knowledge, that they understand some of the basic understandings before they are actually able to move on and do a deeper level inquiry. They have to have that background knowledge for sure. Once I have done that, I have to really look at, okay, so I have all of these expectations. Now I need to plan a lesson that fits with each one of these expectations. And I'm sure you're asking, okay, but if you're doing all of this, how does that exactly fit in with inquiry? So for me, I like to have these matched, a lesson matched each curriculum so that I can rely on those. But I'll be completely honest, inquiry comes into play with how I'm teaching it in my classroom. So although I may have a unit planned and I'm ready to go, I'm definitely following the lead of my students. For example, right now we're in the thick of a habitats unit with my grade 4s. Now, in the past, my students have really wanted to learn more about habitats and kind of all of the animals that are inside a habitat. So that's generally how I have my unit structured, because typically that's how students are more interested in learning. Is I look at it more from the habitat perspective and I go big, and then I narrow the focus down. Except after the first 1 or 2 conversations with my current students, it made very clear to me that my students were far more interested in specific animals and learning all of the different facts about habitats as it pertained to the animals that they were the most interested in. So it meant that I could use the same materials for my lessons to cover the same expectations, but I needed to shift my focus and always refer back to these bigger ideas about things like food chain and adaptations, and always relate that back to their specific animal, as opposed to looking at food chains within the ocean, or food chains within the rainforest, or food chains within the desert. My students specifically wanted to know food chains that affected the grizzly bear, and food chains and food webs that were involved with the beluga whale. That was the hook for them, is they loved these animals that they had picked, and they wanted to frame everything that they were learning back and referenced to their specific animal. So we do an activity together on the carpet where we talk about animal adaptations. We look at a few animals that had adaptations, and then they would take that information about adaptations and go back and learn about the adaptations of their specific animal. And that for them was their buy-in. So that's slightly how I take, say, a lesson that I may have, and I can flip it on the fly based on my students' understanding, even though the actual thing I've planned is used often the same way each year. The focus for my students will change and is responsive to their needs. So that's just one way that I can use that same basic lesson that I have, and I can tailor it to the interests of my students and what they want to learn and how they want to learn about their specific topic, and really following their lead. So inquiry is more about how you're actually putting it into place inside your classroom. But unit planning is definitely what I do, because as a teacher, I need to wrap my head around the curriculum and what the curriculum is asking me to do. And I'm not somebody who can just simply fly by the seat of my pants with no backup plan. So my units are my backup plan, and they are the foundation for where we can jump off of through inquiry with my students. Now, the other thing that I want in my unit plans is I want a wide variety of lessons and activities for students to do. So I definitely don't want to do the same type of activities over and over again. So I'm not always covering every expectation with, say, centers, where they're just rotating through some centers and that's the basis of my unit. I want there to be a wide variety where students are with me, they're with each other, they're in small groups, independent. They're not always just simply independently working through centers. I will use centers, but it's one of the many of the variety of activities that I will include for my students to use. So I wanted to go through some of my favorite learning activities with you that I use with my students. So, and I have some photos for you to see what those look like in a classroom. So, for example, one of the learning activities that I really like to use in my classroom is to use centers. So I do still see the value in using centers in my classroom. It just happens to be one of the many different activities that I can use. So I'll have math centers or writing centers, or I will use the adaptation research page where students will have to learn about different animals and their adaptations in different centers, and then they will bring it back, we'll talk about it, and then they apply it to their own animal. And that's one way that I'm using centers. I love adding different experiments into the learning, and sometimes those experiments are together, they're in small groups. I like to be involved with my students when they are using experiments, so I definitely don't just want them doing it without some input in the conversation. The best part about the experiment, and possibly the worst part as well, is when students are doing an experiment, they need to have some frame of reference for their understanding of that. The consolidation piece for an experiment and understanding the actual science that's happening behind their experiment and not just simply doing it. So for example, this lung activity. It's a really important conversation to have with students about how this model with a cup and a plasticine, a straw, and a balloon replicates the lung and how that actually works inside your body, as opposed to just having them assembling it and not necessarily making those connections. So I definitely want to be involved with my students in centers. One of my favorite experiments is the ping pong ball shooter. It's so easy, and students love being able to shoot ping pong balls at things inside your classroom with some parameters, but it's definitely an experiment that I absolutely love doing with my students, and they look forward to it too. Electrical circuits and showing students how to make a circuit. Now this one gives them a map, and they have to try to look at some of their research and use some of the knowledge that they gained about electrical circuits and then apply it to forming this circuit out of the materials they're given. So there's always going to be a little bit of problem solving involved in making that circuit, but it's definitely something that I enjoy doing, is putting them into a position where I'm not necessarily giving them the how, but I'm giving them all the resources so that they can figure out the how and figure out how those things go together. This is what I'm actually going to be doing in my class tomorrow, which is making blood for the human body. And this is another favorite because it makes it real for students. And we've related these parts of the blood to a truck driver and a nurse and a pilot and a soldier, and then now we're going to assemble it so that they can see what that looks like for themselves. Now, another way that I can use in my classroom, I can use research, is through a final inquiry project where I use scaffolded or guided research booklets to help students look at what their research should look like. So I'm not just saying go out and search on the World Wide Web, but I'm actually giving them targeted and scaffolded step-by-step guides to help them work through that research. So these are just some of the variety of learning activities that I like to include within my units. And again, I always like to put some foldables together. Now, if you teach a split, sometimes one of the ways that I can manage teaching a split grade science where I'm not teaching the same thing to both grades at the same time, but I'm teaching two completely separate units at the same time, because I've been able to match up those lessons so that they complement one another and free up some of my time. Students really like putting these type of booklets together, and it's a different way for them to do it. It also takes some time for them to assemble it, which will give you some time to perhaps work with the other grade as they are learning. I love playing games or putting games into learning activities where students have to apply what they've learned and solve problems within a game, or learn about difficult concepts through a role-playing game, such as the Hair by Nature that I have, that I teach within my Habitats unit. Or sometimes it's simply just a review game where you want to make sure that students have learned what you want to do, and it's right before, say, a quiz or a test, and you want to use a game as a way for them to check their understanding of different concepts. Those are definitely the variety of activities that I want to have, so that students are always interested and excited and learning new things and trying new ways to stretch their thinking. It also allows students with different strengths within your classroom to really develop those strengths, because they're definitely looking at the learning in different ways, and you're accessing some of their strengths in different ways too as you're working through there. Role play, if you have gone through the government unit, you have probably seen that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a key component to the Canadian government unit in grade 5 here in Ontario. One of the best ways to teach this typically dry topic, I remember my first year teaching grade 5, I had an old textbook that simply just had a chapter that had students reading about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and I thought, oh, how dry and unrelatable that is. But when you look at some of the Supreme Court cases that have been charter challenges, which really sparks an amount of debate in your classroom for your students, putting students in the position of having to make a decision about whether or not someone has the right to be fired if they're older, or whether they have the right to be served at a restaurant, putting actual cases that have gone before the Supreme Court of Canada that have challenged our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and getting students to discuss those and learning about the outcomes is a great way, practical way, to get your students to understand why the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in your government unit might be so important. Another one that I've used is clues or escape rooms. This past Halloween, I actually used an escape room. Students brought in all their candy for our class party. I loaded those up onto one of those old AV carts that has no AV equipment on it, and I locked it up into our closet that's attached to my classroom, and I gave them an escape room that if they solved the escape room and were able to escape that activity and solve all the clues, I unlocked the cupboard, and they did escape. But that was definitely a fun way to get my students engaged in solving clues and problem solving, and gave them a high sense of motivation, and they absolutely loved that challenge of having to get their candy out, even though they knew I was going to get the candy out anyways. Diagrams and hands-on activities where they're building and constructing things are good. It's hard with the human body to construct the digestive system, but through diagrams is an easy way to be able to get those things physical, manipulatives, easy to do, which doesn't take a lot of prep, and you don't need to spend a ton of money on models where students would be assembling those, or a lot of materials. It's simply a one page, they cut it out, they color it, and they can assemble it straight in their notebook. Yes, Joy, I am loving the escape room concept. The first time I did it with my class this year was at Halloween. I definitely learned some things about their problem solving skills. So if you need to really push students in their problem solving, an escape room challenge is a great one. And there are some wonderful ones on Teachers Pay Teachers from other people. This is one that I have in with the grade 6 biodiversity unit that I have. But that's not the one I used on Halloween. I used a bit of a simpler one that was just for fun. I also love challenging my students to solve problems, such as use those math textbooks that we don't use very often and make a bridge that spans the distance between two pieces of furniture in our classroom. and then use some weights to figure out how much weight your textbook bridge can hold, where I don't give them a lot of information, but they have to learn how to communicate with one another and collaborate and solve problems and learn from failure. It is a great opportunity for students to practice all of those skills in the realm of science and social studies, where they have to learn how to work with one another and solve problems in a way that is hands-on and interactive, and sometimes doesn't even feel for your students like they're learning. So giving your students opportunities to get down and dirty into the science, into the problems, that real life problems that people encounter, are just one of the many activities that you should think about including in the units that you are planning that are inquiry based. Again, there's building bridges, and again, I put foldables and getting students to put those foldables together. So those are just some of the activities that I'm using. So the last thing I do is assessment. And I go through all of these lessons. Once I've planned out what the learning activity is going to be, then I go back and think, okay, well, what learning goal is actually going to be assessed? What are going to be the assessment pieces? Is it going to be a product, an observation, or a conversation? How will I gather my assessment data on student learning for this activity? What will my look-fors be? What will the opportunity for students to produce something so that I can mark it? Or what conversations will I have? How will I track that? All of those questions will come up as I go through the unit. So I want there to be some type of assessment for students in each one of the activities we do, even if it's the most informal piece of assessment where it's just a quick checklist. Do they get it? No, they don't. Yes, they do. What do I need to do next for my assessment piece? Or whether it's a formal quiz or test or assignment that I can actually have a product to mark in a traditional sense. All of those pieces are an important component of that. So I'm going to switch gears just quickly because I want to talk about holiday season. So I have to say thank you so much to people who have been watching and joining the Facebook groups. I feel this year beyond, I think, any other year that I have done this, I have felt like I know you. I feel like I know what you are doing in your classroom. I've gotten to know so many of you, and I really do cherish and appreciate all of the time you spend to send me an email, to write feedback, to have conversations within the groups and tell me how the things and the products that you are using of mine and how it's impacting you in the classroom. It means the world to me. So as a thank you for the holidays, I decided to do something that I don't typically do, because I wanted to just say thank you and happy holidays and give a gift to you that watches these shows and pays attention and reads the blog and listens to the podcast. So this week is a very special week in Madly Learning world, because I am going to be putting all of my bundles, every single one of them, is going to be on sale at some point in time this week. So every day this week, my bundles will be on sale for 20% off, which is the most that TPT will allow me to put my bundles on sale for. So I've maxed it out and maxed out the sale. So tonight and tomorrow until 9 o'clock tomorrow, all of my science and social studies bundles are going to be 20% off on my TPT store. So just in time for you to say, forget it. I am not going to spend my time after New Year's starting, say, January 2nd. I'm sure there's many of you that are thinking, I know, I'm going to enjoy my holidays. New Year's is going to be over, and then I'll get some work done January 2nd to January 6th. You're probably not going to be super motivated to do that. So save yourself some time, and these units that I have are put together for you. They have these variety of activities. They're inquiry based. They use a lot of the materials. If you already own one or two, you can upgrade right now to the bundle and have a huge discount on that bundle. So tonight is the Science and Social Studies bundle. Tonight and tomorrow, the Science and Social Studies bundles, the grade 4, the grade 4-5, that big, huge grade 4-5 bundle, and the grade 5 bundle, the science and social studies, are all going to be on sale for the next 24 hours. After that will be my math bundle, will be on sale Wednesday night. So all day Wednesday to Wednesday night. So Tuesday night at 9 to Wednesday night at 9. My math bundle will be on sale as well for 20% off. And on Thursday, it will be my Ignited Literacy bundle. The growing bundle will be on sale. So it's already discounted from what the final price will be because it's not yet complete. So you will receive a 20% discount already on the discount that you're given on that halfway done bundle. And that will be on Thursday. And even more so, I am going to choose, so right after this live video, I'm going to be posting a sales notification banner on the Facebook. It'll be on my Instagram, and it will be on my website. And if you go and comment, tag, share, say hey on any one of those places, so whether it is my blog, you will enter in your email on my blog. You can tag a friend or share it and put a comment in the post on Facebook or on Instagram, and all of the information will be on there. I will be giving away 3 bundles. So 3 lucky people will have their choice of any one of the bundles I'm giving away this week. So you can choose, if you're the lucky winner, you have your choice between my math bundle, my Ignited Literacy bundle, or my science and social studies bundles, either the grade 4, the 4-5, or the 5. That will be yours for free. And I will pick 3 different winners. So that is for you to say happy holidays and thank you so much. So once again, all of my bundles will be on a flash pop-up sale each day this week. Tonight and tomorrow will be my science and social studies bundle. Wednesday will be my math bundle. Thursday will be my Ignited Literacy bundle. And Friday will be all the bundles together will be on sale. So if you miss it on the one day, you can pick it up on the Friday as well. Friday at 9 o'clock, I'm going to hop back on live and announce the winners, the 3 winners for these bundle giveaways. So in order to enter the bundle giveaway, stay tuned to my main social media channels of Facebook and Instagram. You'll see a post on both my Facebook and Instagram after this video is done going live, and you will see a page on my website, www.madlylearning.com, where you can sign up and enter into that contest, and I will pick 3 winners to win their choice of whichever bundle from my store they want. And that is my way of saying thank you very much for all of the support and love and allowing me to get to know you and trusting me to be able to give you things that you are using in your classroom. It means the world to me. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them up here. I am going to be on here for the next couple of minutes. I love Joy. That's amazing. You own them all, but you will pass this on. Joy, you can still enter, and if there's other things in the store you want, you might be able to work something out if you are the lucky winner. But that's okay. I love that you want to pass it on. I'm sure that you know a few teachers that might benefit from having a huge bundle this time of year. And Kathy, thank you so much for highly recommending the Ignited Literacy bundle. I am glad that those are enjoyed. Now, the Ignited Literacy bundle is not just the bundle, but you also get access to a Facebook group as well that allows you to ask any questions and talk with other teachers who are also using the Ignited Literacy bundle in their classroom. Now, I know we're midway through the year, and that might make you nervous about using the Ignited Literacy bundle because it looks like it starts in September. Don't worry, we have a plan for you. If you are ready to start it now, we can get you jumping right in and starting with Ignited Literacy so you can start term 2 off ready to go. I have to say, I was looking at my students' writing this week and comparing it to the Ontario exemplars, and they have made such tremendous gains this year in their writing. I'm just so proud of them, and really allowing them that freedom to write within the Ignited Literacy program is allowing them to make those great gains as writers themselves. So I'm very happy to be able to mark those soon. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. You can reach me on any of the social media channels that you see my face on. And you can also find me on my email address at info@madlylearning.com. And I can answer any of your questions that you may have about those bundles. And we've already dropped the link in the comments so that you can go check that out. The Science and Social Studies bundles are on sale right now. So you can click that link and you can head on over there. And you can grab those as soon as they go on sale. And I'll be coming in reminding you when the new bundle is for sale. So again, Science and Social Studies is Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday will be my math bundle, and Thursday will be the Ignited Literacy bundle. And if you miss those, Friday will be all the bundles all the time. So that is my big news and my special gift, because I never do this. I only typically engage in the site-wide sales that TPT throws, but this year feels different, and I wanted to throw a new one and just give it a shot and max out the discount that I'm allowed to give you. Kathy, thank you so much for encouraging others. I'm so happy that you love that program. And thank you so much again for your support. So thank you very much. Stay tuned for those contest posts. They will be up shortly so that you can enter into this contest and win your very own copy of one of my giant bundles for free, just for you as a thank you. Bye for now.